Everyone here today. Let's grab our hymnal and turn to 167. All hail the power of Jesus' name. Let angels prostrate fall. Bring forth the world out. All right, when you get there, if you're able, let's stand and we'll sing this together, and I'll try to get on my microphone. Did Chandler go in the Navy?
No.
Not yet? Is it next week?
Tuesday he goes into MEPS.
Oh, okay, Tuesday. All right. Testing. All right, good to see everyone here. Let's grab our hymnal. You guys ready? Let's sing. All hail the power of Jesus' name. Let angels prostrate fall. Bring forth the royal diadem and crown him Lord of all. Bring forth the royal diadem and crown him Lord of all. Ye chosen seed of Israel's race, ye ransomed from the fall. Hail him who saves you by his grace, and crown him Lord of all. Hail him who saves you by his grace, and crown him Lord of all. Let every kindred, every tribe on this terrestrial ball to him all majesty ascribe, and crown him Lord of all. To him all majesty ascribe, and crown him Lord of all. On the last. Oh, that with yonder sacred throne we at his feet may fall. We'll join the everlasting song, and crown him Lord of all. We'll join the everlasting song, and crown him Lord of all. All right, good singing. Let's pray. Father, we do love you and thank you that one day we'll be in heaven. We'll crown you Lord of all. There will be no competition, no false hopes of answers and people and things out there in the world. We'll see you for who you are, and you will rule and reign wherever the sun does its successive journeys run, as the songwriter wrote. And we're grateful for that hope and that future that we all have in heaven. We ask that you'll meet with us this morning and give us some answers to our life situations. We ask this in Jesus' name and for your name's sake. Amen. You could be seated. Let's turn to what a day that will be. Song number 63. Song number 63. Song number 63. There is coming a day when no heartache shall come, no more clouds in the sky, no more tears to dim the eye. All is peace forevermore on that happy golden shore. What a day, a glorious day that will be. one who saved me by his grace. When he takes me by the hand and leads me through the promised land. What a day, a glorious day that will be. There'll be no sorrow there, no more burdens to bear, no more sickness, no pain, no more heartache, nowhere there. And forever I will be with the one who died for me. What a day, a glorious day that will be. Sing it on the chorus. What a day that will be, when my Jesus I shall see. When I look upon his face, the one who saved me by his grace. When he takes me by the hand and leads me through the promised land. What a day, a glorious day that will be. All right, good singing. Well, we did have a birthday girl lady last week, and she was on her vacation in Tennessee, and she had a good trip. Sister Martha Hopgood, this is your birthday card. Let's give Miss Martha a big hand, please, for her birthday. Happy birthday to you. And I think Miss Martha's about, what, 64, 60?
Plus.
Something plus, all right. And going strong. I said, boy, I'll tell you, we were talking in the car on the way here this morning, and I said, I'm not too worried about Miss Martha. She gets something happens. She's a fighter, and she's got a good attitude about things. And but it's good to have Miss Martha with us, and happy birthday to you. All right. And let's see. Other than that, I don't have any announcements. Let's take our offering at this time. Jackson and Davis, come on up. Right here, buddy. Oh, he wants you to help him too. Oh boy. All right. Let's pray for the offering. Jackson, why don't you pray for the offering?
Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you that we can give our tithes and offerings to you. Bless the church service to come. In Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I think Davis.
Song number 56. And we all have it. Song number 5, 6. You guys ready? Let's sing this together. Sing the wondrous love of Jesus. Sing his mercy and his grace. In the mansions bright and blessed, he'll prepare for us a place. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus. sing and shout the victory. Let us then be true and faithful, trusting, serving every day. Just one glimpse of Him in glory will the toils of life repay. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. Onward to the prize before us, soon His beauty will behold. Soon the pearly gates will open and we shall tread the streets of gold. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and we'll shout the victory. All right, gotta have fun with you guys. Left you hanging on the chorus so you could embarrass yourself just as much as I do mine. All right. What a good song for us today. Don't you like those good old-fashioned hymns that reach out and grab you in the soul and also stretch your vocal cords? They get you ready to yell at one another when you leave church. No, just playing. Let's get our Bible open to Genesis, the very first book in your Bible. Genesis chapter number 11. If you don't have it, it will be right up here on the screen. And we're going to talk about Lot today. Does anybody know anything about Lot? An amazing man in the Bible. Somebody that you can learn a lot of lessons from. There we go. And the title of my message today is Carnal Lot. We're going to learn about Lot's carnality and what that cost him in life and where it got him. And if you have your Bible, we're going to look at verse 27 of chapter number 11. Then we're going to jump over to chapter 12 and look at verse 5. Then we're going to jump over to chapter 13. So you might as well just look up here on the screen, all right? Because it's all going to be right up here. You guys ready? If you're able, let's stand in respect for the reading of God's Word. Genesis 11:27. Verse number 27. You ready? Let's begin. Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran begat Lot. All right. So if your King James Bible says begat, and mine says begot. I don't know why, but some do. Some are different there. But so here we find the origins of Abraham and Haran. Haran was Abraham's brother, and Haran would have begat a son named Lot, and so Lot was Abraham's nephew. Everybody on board so far? Very simple. Lot's dad, Haran's going to die, and Lot's going to inherit all his dad's stuff, and Lot is going to choose to hang out with Uncle Abraham. Okay? Chapter 12, verse 5. Let's look at this. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran. And they went forth to go into the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came. Chapter 13, verse 1 and 2. Let's read this together. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. In verse 5, and Lot also, which went with Abraham, had flocks and herds and tents. So here we're going to find the origin, the beginning of this infamous character in the book of Genesis named Lot. We're going to journey through his life this morning and learn a lot of life lessons about this particular individual in the limelight of Uncle Abraham, and we're going to see how things pan out in Lot's life. Let's bow our heads and pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time. Thank you for the opportunity that we have to venture into the pages of the Bible. And I pray that, Lord, the truths of your word would leap off the pages and down into not just our minds, but also into our hearts. We ask this for Christ's sake and in Jesus' name. Amen. You can be seated. So, when you think about Lot, what do you think of? Anybody know some infamous stories or truths or something in short that you know about Lot? Anybody? Krista?
He pitched his tent towards Sodom.
Right, okay. He pitched his tent towards Sodom. We're going to learn a little bit about that today. Anybody else? Danny, you know anything about Lot? What do you know?
He turned into salt.
He didn't turn into...
No, wait, it was his wife.
His wife? Yep. She looked back and was turned into a pillar of salt. We'll learn a little bit about that one. Anybody else? Lot. What do you know about Lot, Shelby?
He told stuff to his family, and they were all jokes, and then he told them that something was going to happen, and they didn't believe him. I think that happened.
Okay, good.
I guess.
You're right in one story, and I'm going to talk about that story today. In a way. You're right. You are absolutely right. I'm going to tell him about that story. He's got two stories mixed together. So we're going to learn a little bit about Lot today. Let's go ahead and move on to our first main point. So we know that he comes into the play here. He journeys with Uncle Abraham. The Bible made it clear that everywhere Abraham went, Lot went with him. You'll find those two words, with him, a lot of times. Lot with him, and Lot went with him, and Lot also tags along, and so he's tagging along with Uncle Abraham because his dad passed away, and so forth. And so a lot of the character you're going to see Lot hanging out with Uncle Abraham. Now the Bible says here in chapter 13 and verse 7, as they came into this particular land of Canaan, it says in chapter 13 and verse 7, if you want to follow along with me, you can. If you don't have to. I'm just going to read the Bible because you're going to hear a lot of Bible today. There was strife between the herdsmen of Abraham's cattle and the herdsmen of Lot's cattle. So Lot, he inherited his father's substance. And so he wasn't broke as a joke. When I began to read the Bible, I used to think that maybe Abraham made Lot rich. But I take that back, and I've done some commentary research and stuff, and it appears that he inherited his father's rights, and that would make perfect sense that he did, and got everything that was his, because the Bible makes significant statements about Lot's possessions as well, coming with Lot and Sarah to the land of Haran, and then from Haran to the land of Canaan. And so because of that, Lot already had possessions. So we find out that there was strife between the herdsmen of Abraham's cattle and the herdsmen of Lot's cattle, and the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwell in the land. Verse 8 says, and Abram said unto Lot, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, between my herdsmen and thy herdsmen, for we be brethren. Here's Abraham, the peacemaker. And evidently, Abraham felt like Lot wasn't working that hard to resolve the strife, but was allowing the conflict unnecessarily to go on between the two herdsmen groups and so forth. And so Abraham has to confront Lot first on this matter. Isn't that something? You would think Lot, being the younger, would be the fastest one to resolve the matter, not the elder to the youngest. Does that make sense to anybody? It should make sense. Everybody nod your head because you came to church and you're paying attention, right? You're understanding it. Okay. It's funny when a lot of times people go all the way out of their way to come to church and they stare off into space. I'm like, I don't get it. Okay. Not that anybody's doing that this morning, but it's kind of funny when they do that. So, is it not whole? Listen to Abraham talk to him here. He says, is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. If thou wilt depart to the right, then I will go to the left. He's saying, take your pick. You get to choose whatever in the heck you want. I'm going to let you pick any part in the entire land. You have nothing to lose. So here Lot is faced with a decision, isn't he? It's probably the first biggest decision he's ever going to make in his life. Big one. This is where he's going to make his plot in life. He's going to pitch his tent. He's going to put his herdsmen there, and Abraham says, and I'll move my herdsmen to the other side, so there's no more clashing amongst each other. Okay? And Lot, notice what he does here. We're going to find out. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld the plain of Jordan, that it was a well-watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. So, boy, he knew that this was the most fertile part of the land. He knew it was the best of the land. It was the most well-watered of the land. And Abraham, I couldn't believe Abraham offered this position to Lot. Then Lot chose him. Listen to what Lot chooses. Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan. And Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves, one from the other. And Abraham dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain. And Krista pitched his tent toward Sodom. Something interesting here. So, notice this. Lot chooses what's best for him. You know, the first thing about a carnal person that you will ever realize is that they make every single decision based off of them. Isn't that crazy? You know, when I decided to go to Bible college, I didn't choose to go to Howes Anderson Bible College because it was best for me. It was the least attractive. It was the hardest, most uncomfortable place. You know, you got 4 guys in a really small room. It was the strictest of all schools. I wouldn't have personal liberty, freedom to do whatever I want. More like a military boot camp type of environment. But you know, God called me to be a pastor. God called me to be a preacher. And I didn't choose what was best for Dan McCrillis. Well, I was offered all these guys at the church down there where I was going. They were saying, are you sure you want to go there? It's not a new place. It's got a reputation of this and that and all this. And they hit me with all these other colleges, Crown College, Pensacola Christian College, all these other colleges. And this one's got a bowling alley in the dorm. This one's got all these other opportunities. And this one's got free this and free that. And there's even colleges out there to give you the whole entire tuition free in the Christian spectrum. And but you know, with nothing, no anything, I decided to go to Howes Anderson Bible College. It was a hard decision for me to make. You know, not only was I leaving my thriving business, which I just started at the time. Lisa can remember it well, putting up our flyers and stuff. But you know, I was leaving my family behind. I was leaving my dad behind. I was leaving Lisa and Joey at the time, and Tyler and baby. You may have been a baby at the time, Caitlin. And actually, I don't even think you were born when I started college. I know Tyler was like 4 or 5, and maybe Chandler was born. But I don't know if Caitlin was born at the time. and you know, it was a hard decision to make, to leave them, leave Dad. And I was talking to my wife about writing you letters when I was incarcerated about Tyler being born. And while I was giving Lisa all this wise advice, here, I've never been a dad before. Don't do this, don't let him do that, don't do this. And if you ever go back and look at those letters, everything's about Tyler. Please don't do this, and don't let him do that, and don't do this. And I never raised a kid, and I'm not telling Lisa what to do with her children. But you know, but I had to leave my family. And, you know, I was anticipating getting out and being around Mom again, and making sure Mom's needs were met, making sure my sister's needs were met, and making sure I touched base with Dad and make sure Dad was okay. You know, and lo and behold, God did a curveball on me. He changed my direction really fast. I had no idea I was going to be a preacher, no idea I was going to go to college. It all happened like in a whim. And in a matter of a few months, God just turned my life completely around. And off to Bible college I went. And I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to do. All I had was a GED, but I went. You know, and I didn't do what was best for me. I did what was best for life. I did what was best for God. And you know, Lot's choice here, he chose him. He chose him over Abraham. And if there's something that bothers me more than anything, it's the selfishness behind the carnal behavior in life. He should have thought well about Uncle Abraham. Abraham had carried himself in such a noble way. He should have went to Abraham. He's like, he should have said, you know what, Abraham, Uncle Abraham, you're right. Why are we allowing this? I should have came to you first. Hey, let me just have a little portion somewhere, wherever you want. You just help me pick out, and I'll help you pick out. As a matter of fact, let's not separate, because I don't feel too smart being away from you, because I know that God's with you, and He's protecting you, and His hand is on you. And I need to be under you in some way, shape, or form. But instead, he left Abraham. There was no closeness anymore after this. This would be the time that they separate their ways, in a sense. Lot will be in one area, and Abraham will be in another. But Abraham's going to keep his ears open. He's going to keep his eyes open for little old nephew Lot. And you're going to find that out, that Lot gets himself in a lot of trouble, and Abraham has to come to the rescue. And so what does Lot do? He takes the best of the land away from Uncle Abraham. Really makes life tough for Abraham. Now, God's with Abraham, and God's going to bless Abraham. And God, right after this, after Lot chose the best of the land, watch what God tells Abraham right after this. I thought this was interesting. Look at verse 13. The men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. And Lot takes his plight and pitches his tent towards Sodom. And then in verse 14, here it is. God's assuring Abraham of something. Abraham just made one of the baddest deals he could have made physically. Right? I finally made it to Canaan, and I'm given the best of the land, the well-watered plains of everything's going to my little old carnal nephew Lot here, and he's going to take the best, and I'm going to get the high ground. My cattle are going to have to work harder to get water. We're going to have to work harder. But notice what God tells him in verse 14. The Lord said unto Abraham, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art, northward, southward, and notice this next word. And what? Eastward. Wait a minute. Ain't that where Lot is? Isn't that the land I just gave to Lot? And westward. For all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever. And I'll make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, they shall thy seed also be numbered. Hey, can I tell you something cool? God just gave Abraham the okay. Don't worry about what you just did with Lot. That land is yours too. He's just going to occupy it until it all happens for a while. Isn't that cool? But, I bet Abraham made a question. He was just trying to be a nice guy. He probably thought Lot cared a lot more about him than he did. And, it always bothers me when I find somebody that don't know how to respect their elders, don't know how to give honor to whom honor is due. I remember when I was traveling with Dr. Joe Boyd, and some of these young ruffians would come in there out of college, they're freshmen and sophomores, and I had traveled with him for several years, and here he was, an 80-year-old something saint, and I said, whenever Brother Boyd comes in the room, you guys sit up straight, you pay attention, you don't interrupt him while he's talking, you don't ask him endless questions and try to pick his brain for his Bible knowledge or whatever. You sit there, zip your lip. You're not here to talk. You're here to learn. And I'd give $100 to a school that tells their students that. Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to give their voice. Everybody wants to speak. God thanked those humble people, those humble women, those humble students that just shut up and listen in life. Lot, he wanted what was his in every area of his life. And he disrespected Abraham. And it didn't matter. God was going to help Abraham anyway. God was going to come through on Abraham's behalf anyway, and Abraham had that assurance. But it's just the point. There's something wrong with a generation of people that don't know from whence they've come. They don't know the good that's put them where they are. And then, so Abraham, what's happening now? Abraham's got all the other parts there, the west part, and Lot, he's on the east side of the Jordan River. He's on the east side of the Dead Sea. And guess what? He's going to hang out by the city of Sodom. A thriving, lively, party-full city. Oh, and he's lured by the alarms, and he's delighted by the lights and the glamour and all the business that's happening there. It was a very prosperous time, kind of like what it was before COVID here in America. Prosperity. Jobs, buying, selling, and you'll find all this. And you say, well, how do you know that? I'm going to tell you in a little bit. I'll show you. And Lot's caught up in the success of everything. He's caught up in everything. He's caught up in the world. So bad, he can't see that bad things are about to happen to him. Look at chapter 14, verse 9. Let me see if I can, I don't know if I got any PowerPoints for you guys. Yeah, I do. Look at that. Chapter 14, verse 9, it says that the king, Kedorlaomer, the king of Elam, and with title king of nations, and Amraphel king of Shinar, that's why you guys pay me all the big bucks here, and Arioch king of Elasar, 4 kings with 5. And the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits, and the king of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there, and they that remained fled to the mountain. So everybody, they're invaded. Sodom's invaded by all these kings and these nations, and everybody takes off and flees. All right, now look what happens here. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their victuals, and they went their way. And they took Lot. They took Lot, Abraham's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came one that escaped and told Abraham the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner. And these were confederate with Abraham. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. Here's 318 people with Abraham at the helm. Gonna go retrieve his lonely old nephew with all his belongings from 5 nations. Watch what happened. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants by night, and smote them, and pursued them unto Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. Boy, he didn't come out in front of them, and in fact, he got him at night. He swept in fast and fearful, and retrieves his son or his nephew, and he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot and his goods, and the women also, and the people. Isn't that something? Abraham comes to the rescue. Mighty Abraham. But something that popped out at me here, and I don't know, we found out earlier, Lot pitched his tent where? Towards Sodom. Where's Lot at now? He's in Sodom. You see, it's just a matter of time. The people who are lured by the world's delights, charmed by the world's delights, entertained and fascinated by what goes on in this filthy, trashy, slime-pity world. It's just a matter of time before they're right in the world. And right along with the world, doing the things that they thought at one time in their life they would never take part in. Can I tell you something? That's how powerful the world is. And you know, we shouldn't be pitching our tent towards Sodom. We shouldn't be, first of all, doing what's best for me. That's the first lie of this world. It's your life. Do whatever you want with it. Lie. Who has prospered by that lie? Can anybody name one out of the 6 billion people on the earth that has prospered spiritually by that lie? That you could do what's best for yourself and make it to the top in life? Look at our stinking, filthy Hollywood professionals. You want to call them that. I don't even care what their political view is, but it's so amazing how every person, CNN, Fox, they're posting everybody in the limelight of Hollywood's political views about matters. Who cares about the most carnal, filthiest group of people in America? They are sex crazed. They're riddled with divorce and adultery and affairs and suicide with their kids. And we act like we care about them, that they made it to the top because they're in Hollywood. They made it to the top because they drive a fancy car. They made it to the top because they know how to dress right or what have you. Hey, let me tell you something. I'll take a hobo from the mountains over one of them people. I'll take a hillbilly in West Virginia before I choose one of these glamour childs from Hollywood. Hollywood, as far as I'm concerned, is Sodom and Gomorrah. And if you pitch your tent towards them, you watch their movies, you listen to their music, you fad your life after them, you dress like they dress, you talk like they talk, you pick up their stinking habits off of Hollywood, let me tell you something, you're going to make some big mistakes and it won't be long. You'll be right in the muck and the mire of Hollywood. And when it's all done and they've used you up and they've taken advantage of you and they've sucked you out of all your virtue, they've sucked life out of you, like it tells of Lot, they vexed his righteous soul. They cursed him. They hexed him so bad he couldn't function properly in life. I wouldn't give you a dime for that kind of a life. Those kind of lies that the colleges are propagating these days. Boy, these secular schools are filthy. They're trashy. They're nothing but zoos. Nothing but sex-crazed zoos. I don't understand it. Listen to the evolution, the atheism, the fascism that's being propagated in our public school, our colleges right now. All these groups of people, Antifa and all that, are propagating those guys left and right in the colleges, right underneath our nose. I wouldn't give you a dime for the ACLU. I wouldn't go to these places. Listen, and these government-funded everything. Who pumped the lies into the children anyway that college and career is first and foremost? Education is first and foremost. Show me that in the Bible. My Bible tells me wisdom is the principal thing. My Bible tells me knowledge, little know-it-all, puffeth up. So I'd rather have wisdom than knowledge. I'd rather get a good kind of education, a right kind of education that teaches principles and morals first. Show me the classroom in college that teaches a wife how to be submissive to her husband. You won't find it. Show me the classroom in the college that teaches moral rectitude. Show it to me in the entire schools of college out there, all these secular schools. Show me one classroom where they teach you how to be morally rectitude. Have moral rectitude. That means to live in a noble way. They can't place values there. They don't believe in them. You can't place value when you don't believe in it. It's just whatever you believe is morally rectitude for you. That's fine with you. Just be yourself. It's all about you. You. Can I tell you something? It ain't about you. Danny, you have no right to pick the college you want to go to. You have no right to pick the wife that you want to marry. You have no right to choose the church that you want to go to. Oh my gosh. Are you teaching your son enslavement Christianity? Enslavement theology? You better believe I am. I believe if I pump enough righteousness and enough virtue and enough of the right stuff, and I don't entertain him and pitch his tent towards Sodom, he won't go that way. I won't one day find him in Sodom and get his life taken away and have to come to the rescue later on in his life. Oh, bail him out. Oh, Father Abraham, bail out nephew out of here. Bail him out of his marriage. Oh, it's okay, that divorce didn't work. That marriage didn't work out. That was a bad mate. That person stabbed you in the back, and by the way, how would you have ever been able to read it? Well, if you had wisdom instead of knowledge, you would have been able to read it. If you wouldn't have married the drunk that never went to church a day in his life, but promised you he was a Christian. Met him on a Christian website. That's what everybody tells you. Met him on a Christian website. First thing I asked him when we were at a party drinking beer, are you a Christian? Let me tell you something, that's not where you find out they're a Christian or not. I'm glad I found my wife in Bible college. I wouldn't give you a dime for a degree from a secular school. Not a dime, ain't worth nothing. I was talking to a homeless guy yesterday named Charlie. He's got 2 degrees from college. He's homeless, dude. He's not homeless, but he's close to it. He lives on the streets. A lot of times you'll find him on the streets. He looks homeless. But his parents are rich and they live in Ladue, and they put him up in a little shack in Limay. And he walks up and down Broadway all the time. He finally gave up alcohol. Another big mistake we're going to find about Lot here in a little while. No standards and no convictions. Everybody justifies their drink and their booze and their little licentious behavior. But you can't find one place in the Bible where it talks good about it. Lot, oh boy. Abraham comes to his rescue, just like we're seeing today. All the parents come to the child's rescue after they flop and they flounder and they fail all over the place. Well, by the way, what good is a career? A good career, a financially great career, when you got to give it all away to alimony and child support and your failures and all of that? What good is it? What good is a good career if that's the end result? Sounds like to me they should have taught you, along with a good career, moral rectitude. How not to pitch your tent towards Sodom. How you can live and make sure you don't have to fear where you're going to be in 10 years, 20 years. You know, I've never second-guessed being married to Krista. I've never second-guessed being where I'm at today in this church. Last week we had a different crowd on Sunday morning, but about the same amount of crowd. But you know what? I'm just as happy today as I was last week, as I was 2 weeks before that when we had a big crowd. But you know what? It doesn't matter to me. My happiness ain't built on the crowd. It ain't even built off of what church I go to, because I didn't choose this church. God chose it for me. I didn't choose her. God chose her for me. I didn't choose my kids. God chose them for me. I don't get to raise them any old way I want. That's why people say, well, if my child wants to drink and drug and go to the bar, I'm not going to survive. I just want to teach them to do it responsibly. You ever seen such filthy, trash stupidity come out of somebody's mouth? I've heard it so many times. There's so many people that believe that stupidity. Can you find one Bible verse in that peon brain that teaches that stuff? Nobody believes that truthfully, do you? Lot didn't get that from Abraham, that's for darn sure. So anyway, Abraham comes to the rescue. Now we're not going to hear much about Lot for 4 chapters, so let's skip over to chapter 18, and we're going to learn something else about Lot. So he started off pitching his tent there. Now he's dead smack in the middle of the biggest, most pervertest city probably in the world at the time. It's so bad, we're going to find out a story here in chapter number 18 that is unbelievable. So we know that Lot's living in Sodom now. He's back in Sodom. He's returned there. And God has decided, I'm going to parse all this down for you. God's decided that he's going to destroy Sodom because there's too many gays and lesbians in there. Oh, that's so offensive, Pastor. God's he's a racist, he's a this, he's a that. I was telling my boys, he's a lot of things that wouldn't gel good with people these days, as wicked as we have become. But let me tell you something, God knows how to bring down his wrath, don't he, Miss Martha? You've been around long enough to know. Oh, he'll stop it in a way that you won't expect it. Could be something under the guise of corona, or something else, or war. He can do whatever the heck he wants. But nobody's going to flaunt themselves in the face of Jehovah God and get by with it. What does the Bible say? God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, be not deceived. God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So, what happens here? God says, shall I hide from Abraham the thing which I do? I need to let Abraham know I'm about to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham, God comes to Abraham and says, I'm going to wipe it out. The sin is so filthy. That's where sodomy comes from, by the way. If you ever want to know why gays and lesbians are called sodomites, they get that name from the Bible. The Bible terms them. That's what a sodomite is. If you see a sodomite in the Bible, the word says sodomite, that's what that is. They're gay or lesbian. And God, he says, this whole city is filthy. I'm destroying it. It's not beneficial for anything, any good. There's no mercy with them. There's no reasoning with them. Have you ever met people you can't even reason with anymore? They are so ate up with the world in their own way and what they want. You can't talk. You can talk to them till you're blue in the face and it just don't get through. That's how bad Sodom got with God. And God says, I'm done with it. I'm going to burn it down. And he rained fire and brimstone down on Sodom and Gomorrah. You're going to find out here. But Abraham, listen to Abraham. Abraham comes up to God and says, God, there's so many people there. What if there was 50 righteous people? Would you kill it? Would you destroy it if I found 50 righteous? And Abraham, God says, okay, Abraham, if you find 50 righteous, I'll go and I'll spare the nation. Out of this thousands and thousands of people, is there really that many bad people? Oh yeah, the percentages are filthy, especially in our day and age. There wouldn't have been one person in Lot's church if he had one in Sodom. Would he have been a failure? I don't know, because as filthy as that place was, I highly doubt it. Couldn't find 50. What if I could find 20? Or 40? What did you go to, Benny? You probably know. Benny memorizes numbers like this. Was it 40, then 30, then 20? Here we go. Let's just start right here. And the Lord said, if I find Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I'll spare that place for their sin. Abraham answered and said, behold, now if I have taken upon me to speak the Lord, which one of the dust of the ashes, peradventure I should lack 5 of the 50, would you destroy it for the lack of 5? And he said, if there be 40 and 5, I will not destroy it. He spoke of him again, and peradventure to find 40 there, peradventure to be 30 there, peradventure to be 20 there, peradventure to be 10 found there. God was willing to spare it for 10. I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And the Lord went his way, and as he left communing with Abraham, Abraham returned unto his place. Abraham couldn't find 10 righteous people in the entire city of Sodom and Gomorrah. Hey, what a bad situation this was. But can I tell you something? Let me just go back to Lot here. Sodom and Gomorrah wasn't Abraham's responsibility. God put, according to Lot here, you have to judge Lot by his little, but here's Lot living in Sodom. If there was somebody that should have communed more for the people than anyone else, it should have been Lot. Lot can't commune. He can't intercede on someone else's behalf when he's so vile and vexed himself. And God had to use an outsider, one who didn't know the burdens of the people inside the city, one who didn't know all the turmoil and all of the filth and what all went on there. He couldn't even plead for the children in that city. God has to go to Abraham, and Abraham pleads and pleads and pleads, and he returned into his place. Then chapter 19 is going to happen, and we're going to find out what happened here. We're going to learn something else about Lot. Okay, there's chapter 19 right there. So God sends 2 angels, 2 men. They look like men. Anytime you ever see an angel in the Bible, they look like humans. You think about the angel that sat upon the stone with Jesus, he looked like a human. He had 2 hands, 2 eyes, 2 feet, 2 legs. Okay? And these two guys come to Abraham, or to Lot's house, to get Lot out of Sodom. Okay? And they said, stand back. Or look at, I'm sorry, Genesis 19, if you have your Bible. And we're going to look at how evil the men of Sodom are, verse 4. And before they lay down, these two men come to Lot's house. The men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round about, both old and young, and all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot and said unto him, where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out to us, that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door of them unto them, and shut the door after them, and said, I pray you, brother, do not so wickedly. They didn't want to just know these men. They wanted to rape them. That's how filthy this was. They say, oh, you shouldn't talk like that in church. Well, it's in the Bible. And let me tell you another story. It happens all over our country every day. You don't know the person sitting next to you in life, the one you're going to go to school with. Oh my goodness, if you even, I dare any young person to look at an almanac and look at the immorality in our country. It's horrible. The party lifestyle, the sex lifestyle, the homosexuality craving, all the filth and trash. It's crazy. Behold, now I have 2 daughters. Now listen to Lot. These guys want to come in and take advantage of these 2 visitors. Lot doesn't really understand who these visitors are, does he? These guys will find out, have power. And Lot says, behold, now I have 2 what? Remember these 2 daughters. And remember how their dad thinks about them. I have 2 daughters, which have not known a man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do to them as it is good in your eyes. Only do not to these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. And they said, stand back. And they said again, this one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now will we deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. And the men put forth their hand and pulled Lot into the house to them to shut the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they were wearied themselves to find the door. First thing that bothers me is how Lot offers his daughters. What a scumbag to protect these 2 guys. Okay? Look at verse 12. And the men said unto Lot, hast thou here any besides son-in-law? So now the 2 angels, they're going to talk to Lot. You have a son-in-law, you have daughters, you have anything, whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy, these guys, they just smote these guys with blindness. Now we are going to destroy this place. Sodom and Gomorrah, the whole city. You know, Lot didn't know who was in his presence, did he? He was all worried. He was about to sacrifice his daughter's virtue for no reason. All the men of the whole city couldn't touch these angels. And the Lord has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spake to his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. And when the morning arose, and the angels hastened not, Lot saying, arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, golly, Lot, get your butt out of there. You know, what do you teach your kids? When I say something, do it, right? Here the angels, he saw they just smote these guys with blindness. They just gave Lot the pronunciation of God's judgment upon the city. And what does Lot do? He drags his stinking feet. You know, everybody acts like they got tomorrow. They got all their life to get things fixed. You know, when I got saved, I got rid of my alcohol right away. I got rid of my rock music within weeks and months. I got rid of my stinking drugs and my filth and my trash within weeks and months. I knew I didn't have all my life to get cleaned up. You know what? I didn't drag my stinking feet to get out of Sodom and Gomorrah, out of the world, out of the filth and the muck and the mire. I got in a hurry. You know, it's amazing. We run fast and furious to get ourselves in trouble, and then we're slow as molasses to get out of it. The men laid hold upon his hand and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, and the Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth, and set him without the city. So now they got him, they dragged him out by the hand, take him out, set him outside the city. And it came to pass that when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee. He's saying, keep on running, and don't you even look back. What a good attitude to have about Sodom, right? Don't even look back. Well, the problem with the average Christian today, God's getting them out of the muck and the mire through a miraculous delivery, and every day, oh, sure do miss that old alcohol bottle. Oh, sure do miss my old filthy friends over there on party night. Oh, sure do. Oh, it's Friday, the party night. Oh, Saturday, it's party weekend night. Oh, there's the old football game. Oh, and we're still charmed by the world's delights. What is that song? I am resolved no longer to linger, charmed by the world's delights. Things that are higher, things that are nobler, these have allured my sights. I will hasten to him. Hasten so glad and free. Jesus, greatest, highest, I will run. I will come to thee. Boy, the average Christian today, he's looking back, looking back. Looking back, what am I missing? What kind of fun am I missing? While you're bankrupt, while you're wrecking your vehicles, while you're getting in a mess and a mire, while you're making all the bad decisions. Why keep looking back? What a dumb attitude to have, Lot. What happens to old Mrs. Lot? She looks back. And the moment she looks back, she turns into a pillar of salt. And Lot lost his wife. God rained down, listen to me. You say, what about this pillar of salt thing? Well, I don't know if it's science behind it or what, but when God rained down fire and brimstone, if you ever look at a volcanic ash, you know, a lot of your debris coming out of an eruption or whatever may be, a lot of it's basalt. It's one of the number one things in the Earth's crust. It's one of the number one properties in the Earth's crust. Wouldn't surprise me at all. She looked just like a pillar of salt. You know, what do we dig up in Italy? The ancient ruins of that Mount Vesuvius, was it? That erupted, and everybody was just trapped in the position they were frozen from when the ash hits. You're stuck there. And today you can go and view carcasses of thousands of people. There's nothing there, but the shell of a carcass of what was there when that volcanic ash hit. Hey, I want you to know something. I don't know whether she lingered behind in her look. I don't know. Maybe it was just a miraculous pillar of salt. I don't know. How, God doesn't have to be, he can be work any way he wants. I believe what the Bible says happened 100%, whether it was a scientific happening or a miraculous happening. It doesn't alarm me. But in the same time this is happening, he's raining down fire and brimstone on the city. And I wouldn't be surprised if a large part just happened to make it to Mrs. Lot. So what do we have here? We have a lingerer dragging his feet to get to safety. He went from pitching his tent towards Sodom to dwelling in Sodom. He was prone to live his life on the edge, wasn't he? And then lastly, now you have Lot. He can't live in Sodom anymore. Sodom's gone. He can't do what he wants anymore. So now look at verse 30. This is interesting. So remember, all he's got is those 2 daughters that he cared so much for. You know, everybody brags about how they care about their kids. Then they treat them like crap. They don't provide for them. They don't leave nothing behind. They don't put anything valuable into their life. Everything's a party. Everything's fun. Everything's this. Everything's that. And Lot, he put nothing into his daughters. He was willing to offer them up to the men of the city. And now watch what he's doing to them. This is the bum that Lot is. This is the piece of trash that Lot is. It's also the same piece of trash that many of our so-called fathers in America are. As they just throw their kids to the world. Oh, you go ahead and have sex with these boys. It's okay. You go ahead and party your life away. It's okay. You go ahead and drink and drive and smoke. You decide to smoke, that's okay too. And if you want to cuss because you feel like, that's okay too. We just talked to somebody recently. Their 8-year-old boy cusses like a stinking sailor. And my wife got on to him about it, and the mom of the boy told him, you go to your room if you feel like cussing, and then you can cuss in your room. No. You take your belt off, you bend them over, and you spank them. First of all, you give a good example. So they got to search for you and find out, is that a cuss word? First of all, they shouldn't even know what a cuss word is and what ain't. It's a bad world we live in. 8-year-old boys, is he 8?
7.
He's 7. F word, D word, S word, all of it. 7-year-old. Horrible. But listen to this. Chapter 19, verse 30. Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him. Here they are, those lofty, virtuous women, who have not known a man. Right? For he feared to dwell in Zoar. So here Lot's scared now. He's living in fear. Everything, all his decisions are based off of fear. He don't have an ounce of manhood in him. He's scared to death. He runs with his tail between his legs. All his decisions, can't go to work today. I'm afraid I might get in trouble. I can't do that. I might not work out. I may not, I can't do this because that might not. Everybody lives in fear these days, right? For he feared to dwell in Zoar. So what did he do? He dwelt in a what?
Cave.
A cave. And his 2 daughters. And the firstborn, listen to this, said to the younger, our father is old, and there's not a man in the earth to come unto us after the manner of all the earth. They learned what the manner of all the earth was where? In Sodom. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him. And we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he perceived not when she lay down or when she arose. Now we've got incest. Incest. Let me tell you something. Another mistake Lot made. He thought it was okay to go drink. He thought it was okay. He thought, man, Dad, have a beer on me. He had no idea what was awaiting him. And you know, all these people, they get by with it. They drink and they do their little drinks, their little tips. They got their little wine closets. They got their little beer factories, their little brewski places in their house where they brew their beer. Their own beer now has become popular in the basement. And you got the whiskey drinkers, the vodka people. And you know what you don't know is the devils that are in that stuff and what it will do to you. And here's Lot sleeping with his own daughters, and he don't even realize it because he ain't nothing but a pervert of a father. He ain't nothing but a sinful, filthy piece of trash of a dad who was willing to give his own daughters up. What causes people to get that way? Oh, they sit in the church, they look so polished, they look so great. They drive up and down the roads. Let me tell you, that's why Weinstein was killed in America. Because Bill Clinton had visited his little mansion on an island where he had all these people had sex with all these little underage girls. They were stealing these girls from Mexico and America and flushing them there to have sex with these highfalutin millionaires. And the Clintons killed him in the jail. So all the sins of this guy and what all he was about, who involved everybody else, wouldn't get him all done, wouldn't get him busted. It's been on, if you just Google any of this stuff, you will find out all the people that have visited him. Hundreds of young ladies have come forth. Only a few have a viable case that they could prove because they did so well at hiding it. Our country's riddled with this stuff. Where does it start? It starts when you have no virtue. It starts when you have a code that says, oh, I can sleep around. I can do whatever I want with whoever I want. I can decide what I look at on my own cell phone. Lot chose what was best for him. He chose what was best for him. And when Christians do the same thing, we're in trouble, America. And they're doing it. They will defend it to the hill. You won't find a church in America that preaches this message. You just won't. Not amongst the glamorous few, that multitudes that sit under their glorious flock. Lot. Watch what happens here. So, verse 34, and it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said to the younger, Behold, last night I lay with my father. Let us make him drink again this night also, and go thou in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him, and perceived not when she lay down or when she arose. Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. And the firstborn bore a son, and called his name Moab. Moab would become the father of the Moabites. The same as the father of the Moabites unto this day. Verse 38, the younger, she bore a son, called his name Benjamin. The same as the father of Ammon unto this day, which gave the Ammonites. Two groups of people that caused Israel hell for 400, 500, 600 years. Actually, all the way in the book of Jeremiah, 1,000 years. Caused Israel problem. Lot. Hey, I don't know about you, but if I was you, I wouldn't be pitching my tent towards Sodom. I wouldn't be hanging out and justifying having friends of Sodom. Oh, you know, I preach a message like this and people they look at me like a calf looking at a new gate. They tell me how racist I am, how judgmental I am, and how narrow I am. I'm narrow. You better believe I'm narrow. I'm about as narrow as that book right there. I'm about as judgmental as that book is right there. And if God says that it's sodomy, it's sodomy. If he says it's adultery, it's adultery. And if he says it's fornication, it's fornication. And if he says it's wrong, it's just flat out wrong. I ain't going to buy into it. I ain't buying into it today at 43 years old. I won't buy into it 40 years from now at 84 years old. I didn't buy into it 20 years ago at 24 years old. I've been preaching the same way. And you know what's horrible is when you try to reason with these people, you try to talk some sense into them, those days become the landmarks in their life. The decisions they made on those days. You can go back. I would have said, man, if you'd have just done what I told you that day when I was in your house and we talked about this. But you didn't care. You thought you knew more. You thought it was me versus you. But no, it wasn't. I just know this. That's all. It's my job to know that. I spent hours, many hours, along my working week. This week, I've spent hours in that book right there. The difference between you and me is you watch TV that much. Or you did other things that much. I don't know. Some of you read your Bible this week. Kudos for you. Because that's how you learn it. You got to get in it. You got to put the Bible first. So you start seeing things the way that when I preach, you understand, hey, I get it. That's right in the Bible. When I was going to church, when I first got started, I was reading the Bible every day for something like an hour a day. Let me tell you this. I was the only guy in church saying, amen! And nobody said anything to me because for saying it. But I knew what he was saying was right. Because I had read it in the Bible and found it out. And I was like, amen! I may have been in a different part of the Bible, but if it was talked about on that part, and he's saying this on this part, I can amen it. You know why our churches become quiet? Because people don't read their Bible. They can't validate it, or they're living in it. It's hard to say amen when I'm pitching my tent next to Sodom. Or if I'm living in Sodom. Or if I'm allowing the virtue of others in my immediate care to be sacrificed on the altar of what's best for me. Absolutely not. It's not going to happen. And so we get to the end of the Bible. That's Lot's life. And then we find out what Peter says about Lot. And I'm just going to give it to you in a nutshell, and we're going to get out of here. Peter, where are you? Turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them with an overthrow, 2 Peter 2:6, making them an example unto those that after should live ungodly. So he's saying here, listen, God made an example out of Sodom and Gomorrah for us. Now listen to this. And delivered just Lot. The word just there means righteous. Now listen to this. Vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. For that righteous man, dwelling among them, in seeing and hearing, vexed his righteous soul from day to day with their unlawful deeds. You know, Lot, if you got into Lot, if you cracked him open, you would have found a righteous man. But he hung out in Sodom so long. He played the game for so long. He vexed his righteous soul and ruined his life, ruined his daughter's life, and wreaked havoc upon the nation of Israel. Isn't that something? Don't make the same mistake. You may be a saint of God today. You may be a righteous Lot, like the Bible says. But what good is righteousness if you can't even plead for the people of your own city? What good is righteousness if it's just trapped in your heart and you can't get it out and you're offering your daughters to the men of the city? What good is righteousness when you trained your wife to look back? What good is righteousness when you can't even resolve a simple conflict with Uncle Abraham about the herdsmen and the cattle? What good is your righteousness when you always choose what's best for you? Don't vex your soul. Run. Run as far away from this old world as you can, and don't look back. You'll not miss it one bit, I promise you. Let's pray. Father, we love you today. Thank you again for the Bible. And Lord, today, more than ever, I believe you're looking into the church in America, and you are looking for a virtuous woman, for a virtuous man, for people who want to put you first and them last. And I ask today, Lord, in this room, that all of us as a church would run as far as we can away from Sodom. Not pitch our tents there. Not get entertained by what it has to offer. Because, Lord, nobody leaves Sodom a better person. The only thing that awaits the Sodom life, the Gomorrah life, is the judgment of God. And I pray that all of us will wake up and smell the coffee this morning. There's things in our life right now we got to get out of there. Let's get them out. If you've talked to us about some specific area, let's deal with it. There may not be another chance. My life's changed from many sermons in a church service. Help us all to follow suit. If you're speaking, Lord, may the people follow and hear. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's stand and sing a song of invitation. I've decided to follow Jesus. We're turning back. Song number 5,000 in the hymnal. All right. Jackson, come on up here and stand and sing this song with me. You ready? I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. No turning back, no turning back. I don't know about you, but I'm taking my kids and I'm running. I'm running away from Sodom. I'm running away from Gomorrah. I'm not pitching our tent towards Sodom. That's sure you got to teach them that. I yell at my kids every day, don't I, Jackson?
Yeah.
Did you get yelled at today already? I yell at Davis. I yell at Shelby. I yell at Danny. I just want them to know what Dad believed, what Dad knew was right. Because when they get old enough and they head off their own little lonely way, guess what? Then they call the shots for themselves. And you know, the Bible says you train up a child in the way he will go, and in the end, he'll not depart from it. I'm hanging on to that verse, and I'm trusting in God's word that when these kids leave the house, they're going to go the way Dad and Mom trained them. I'm not going to pitch my tent towards Sodom with them. No way. They'll hit the toboggan, slide straight down to the mess. Right. Dead sure ain't gonna do that with you, you little sweetie pea poo poo. Oh, she's so gorgeous. Yeah. All right, you're dismissed. Thank you for coming.